Three, two, one, and we're live. What's up, everybody?
Going.
It's Tyler with Hooksets are free and Brendan from Brown Bait Co.
Howdy, folks.
Hope you guys are doing well on this fine Sunday evening, mid-March. Interesting time of year considering that the Bassmaster Classic is next week, and depending on what part of the country you live in, fishing is all across the board, right? So, including the folks in here watching, and yeah, that'll be interesting to talk about. But also, as you noticed from the title of tonight's video, that we're going to kind of talk about some differences between big bait fishing and conventional fishing, because Brendan over here is a big bait specialist, and as a lot of you guys know, had kind of gotten rid of a lot of his conventional gear, the majority of it. Now, as far as I understand, you still do fish some conventional, is that right?
I do. I fish a lot of. If I'm going to fish conventional, it's going to be a crankbait, a jig, or some sort of topwater. I mean, those are. I mean, not much else I throw. As far as
But
conventional
even
goes,
still, within crankbaits, don't you much prefer large body crankbaits?
I do most of the time. But there's certain situations where you have to downsize to like a 1.0. So I
Well,
don't.
hey, you
I
do
mean,
that.
that's small.
You'll go to a 1.0?
I will. Yeah, that right about that size right there.
Yeah.
I
You
have
know,
a.
I don't talk about this often enough, but um, the KVD 1.0
Mhm.
from Bass Pro Shops, that is the rattling version.
Yeah.
Um, this bait's been out for a long time, and obviously in all the sizes: 1.0, 1.5, 2.5. But in the rattling version,
Is
and
that
it
like
just
little
has,
BBs?
and it no, it's like a single knocker,
Okay. Okay. That's interesting.
and it's higher pitch in the smaller baits, and then it's much louder in, like, go up to a 2.5. Listen to this. And so it's just one ball in the center of the bait.
Yeah,
I'll
like the
probably
wake
show you
bait that they
in
have.
this color here,
Yeah, yeah.
placed down here, and it just shifts side to side. So it's a traditional one knocker style bait, but it's a little different sound than what you get out of the newer hard knock baits by Strike King, which is
Yeah.
a bit more of like a tinny sound. So that's one that I've fished for a long time that I don't really hear anybody talk about very much, but it's a Bass Pro exclusive bait. And they used to make this nasty red craw color
Oh, that looks good.
with the
Oh, the
painted eyes
dotted
on the
eyes
back.
and everything.
And
Oh man.
then they totally screwed up that paint job and can't find them anymore like this. Like, it even had
Dang.
some
Oh,
cool
that's
flake
green
on the back.
flake.
A really cool color
That's
pattern.
sweet.
So, like, I've got this one that's left, and I'm scared to fish.
I
It's
bet.
stupid, right? But we do that.
Wow.
So you'll go down to a 1.0 square bill.
Yeah, it's the smallest. I actually have a catch and concepts tied on for Tuesday. So
Which one?
a catch and concepts, it's like
Yep.
a 4 to 6 foot diver, 1.5 size.
I didn't know
So
they made crankbaits that small.
yeah, yeah, redwood. So redwood's a little more dense, so it casts a little bit better. So because I don't have a rod to throw like, like a super light crankbait or anything.
Yeah. Well, let's greet everybody real quick, because we
All
do
right.
have 13 people in here, and the comments are starting to fly, and I don't want to be that guy not addressing anybody in the comments. So, Frank, if you want me to send you the link later, maybe we'll let you in, but you just like to stir the pot, dude. Adam Odin, how you doing tonight? Daniel, thanks for being here. As always, appreciate you. Jermaine in the house.
Oh, a little late for
How
him.
how are you still awake? I love it. Matt's in here. Tom's in here. Rich
What
is
is
in
that?
here. Yeah, I don't do guests very frequently, but Brendan and I were talking in the chat at the very same time, volunteering as tribute to go live tonight, since Matt screwed up his schedule, and it will be going live tomorrow night. Uh,
It's actually Travis's fault.
is it?
Yes.
Um, all right. So who else am I missing here?
I think that's everybody. Just
Dave Jolly.
yeah.
What's up, dude?
Oh, what's up, Dave?
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe that I was feeling, Rich. I'm like, wait,
There's a
you
reason
know,
why I throw in that small sometimes.
not
It's
holding true. All right. Will you throw finesse jigs or micro jigs?
the smallest I'll go for a jig is about that size, and I usually trim down the skirt. And this is actually what I wanted to talk about. Here, let me brighten up the camera.
Interesting. Yeah, do show.
So this is a spade jig.
Well, oh,
Oh,
wrong. I wanted you to be the one. What is that? How do I
you
swap
go
you?
hover over my screen, and then there should be
Solo
three
layout.
dots.
Got you,
Yeah, there
brother.
you go. There
Show
you
it.
go. So this is a jackal spade jig. They don't make these anymore, and
Yeah.
it's a tungsten jig, and it's got this crazy, like it's almost like a Arky style head, but it's a little bit different. See, it's got that weird like cut on the top, and it
Mm-hmm.
flattens out really wide there. And it has actually a pretty stout weed guard for like how it looks there. Super short shank hook. I mean, look
Yeah.
at how short that is. This
Dang.
is going to be for bed fishing.
So what is that? Like a 1/0, 2/0?
Yeah, I would guess so. It's really stout too.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about this one is the skirt. I don't know if you can see, but it's crinkled. Like it's
Yeah.
got these weird like little
That,
things.
you think that was intentional, or is
That is
that just
intentional.
rubber that's goofed?
Yeah, it's intentional. It's got these weird little. I don't know. It's like where they bent the rubber. I don't know how they do it, but it's
Interesting.
very interesting. And I got it in the purple, black, and brown color.
Yeah,
So
love that.
yeah,
Reminds me a lot of that new slobber knocker color. Um,
yeah, the BL special. But this one
yeah.
I'm gonna trim up and use this on beds probably because how short that hook is and how different it is
Yeah.
compared to most other jigs.
What kind of trailer will you throw on that?
I don't even know if I'll throw a trailer. I might put like a piece of a Senko on there, just to give it some body whenever the fish bite it.
Piece of a Senko. Now,
Hmm.
speaking of conventional, do you ever throw anything that is buoyant in the way of a soft plastic? Not Z-Man
Um,
specifically, because I know you probably don't throw Z-Man, but um, do you throw anything that is more buoyant?
I mean, unless you're talking about a frog, like a Stanley rivet, but that doesn't float though.
No, but would you
So
throw
I
like
mean,
a trick worm on a jig instead of
oh, okay, yeah, yeah,
a Senko?
yeah. But the problem is if this bait is I picked up for bed fishing specifically, so if it has that super long, um, worm on there, then it's gonna be unless you cut the worm, then
Yeah,
it
no.
can probably definitely
I'm
work.
thinking
So
either a finesse worm or a trick worm cut like down to
yeah, that okay, that
3,
could
3.5
definitely
inches.
work.
Might just
I
do a
might
little
try
bit
that.
more, right?
Yeah, I think that might work a little bit better there because it'll keep the jig off the bottom a little bit. Yeah, I might try that there.
Hmm.
Maybe. I think I actually have some Z-Man Senkos up there that I could use instead. That'll give it a little bit more body. That
What,
way
the
it floats a little
zinkers
harder.
or the
I think it's the Zinkers.
okay.
I believe so. Yeah.
So let's go back to when and why you decided to go down the deep rabbit hole that is big baits. And we don't need to, get all hyperbolic and talk about the very biggest baits that you've got, because some of those are
Yeah.
absurd, right? But
Yeah, a little bit.
for most people, something like, a Spro Rat in the 50 size
Yeah, that's
feels
a big
giant.
bait.
Even like a Whopper Plopper 130 to a lot of people can seem big.
Definitely.
An oversized frog or a 6-inch swim bait can feel big, but
Like a 2.5
gone.
square bill to some people is very large. It has a lot of drag. It thumps really hard.
What size?
I mean,
2.5?
a 2.5 size
Yeah.
square bill, like that's big to some people, especially
That
people in
feels
the north.
that's like big enough for me, right? Like I've got some
Hmm.
4.0s, and it's just like I don't know when and where, and I feel like I don't even have a
Yeah.
proper setup to be able to throw it on, right? And
Yeah.
because there's not going to be enough tip. It's just all backbone when I'm throwing something heavy enough to be able to sling a crankbait that size.
Yeah.
Um, but
Definitely.
why did you just get bored of conventional fishing, or did you try big baits and something went off in your head that you just figured the odds are in my favor with bigger baits and this is more
Yeah.
fun or interesting? It's different. Like what when did you make this switch and how gradual was it? Or was this just a year ago and you pulled the plug like a psycho? You know, give us a
Well,
little backstory.
well, I'm not sure when I started swim baiting. Like I know, like I've always had like a small, like or small. I call it small now, but I thought it was massive. I always had like a 6-inch mag draft.
Hmm.
Like, actually, I think Shannon Kirby. I'm not sure if he's in the chat. He's like longtime supporter of my channel. He's been there since the very start. He actually bought me some for my. I think it was my second ever pack of mag drafts. And I always saw these guys catching these just massive fish on these big baits. And I'm like, I don't see as many people catching these massive fish on conventional tackle or finesse baits. So I'm like, I want to catch the biggest fish I can because I love catching big fish. That's like what I really like. And it's just been all downhill since I started fishing the mag draft. And it was the freestyle,
Yep.
and I was like just pond hopping with those, and I caught a few fours and a five and a six, and I was just like, this is insane. And you know, I was able to weed out all those small fish and start catching those bigger than average fish, and that's what I'm personally after, is those big fish.
Now, why keep climbing from a 6-inch bait when that's starting to be super effective for you, right? Like,
To root out those even smaller fish, or to root out those fours and fives to go for the next class of fish. Because, I
sure,
mean, sometimes you'll get those 2 pounders that bite that 6-inch bait, but you
totally.
don't get a ton of like little 2 pounders that hit a 9-inch glide bait or
Yep.
a 10-inch Hud. Like, you
Yep.
don't get that many fish that bite those baits that are that size. So
But you also
you
don't get
really put the odds
many
in your
fish
favor.
that bite those baits.
That's true. That is very true. But that's what the grind is. You're grinding for that one bite or
Yep.
no bites that day. Like, I've gotten plenty of times I've woken up, took the boat to the water, driven 30 minutes to the lake, spent all day, not even a bite. Not even a bite. And,
Yep.
packed up, and, it's a lot of money. Get fuel and all the time spent fishing that big bait.
Right.
So,
You know what that
yeah.
reminds me of is Jeffrey the King from the Hookup Tackle, right?
Yep.
I don't know when it was in the last couple of seasons, but I was surprised to hear that like the number of fish that he had caught in the year was like, I don't know, 10 or something like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right? Um, that's hard to swallow for a
It
lot of us, right?
is.
Now, of those 10 fish, at least half of them are like
Over 8.
really, really nice fish. And he's
Yeah.
catching his PB among those few fish that he's catching.
Hmm.
But wow, how do you
It's
embrace the
insane.
grind? And yeah, is
You
that
just
is that
do.
one bite every so often? Um, do you just never forget that? Is that what just lights
It's
you
a
on fire?
rush. It's a rush. It's also fun throwing like a big bait. Now, I get it. If you're throwing like a 12-inch, like 10-ounce bait, it's not going to be fun for your shoulder or whatever at the end of the day because you're throwing it 8 hours a day. You're
Yep.
throwing, that's a lot of weight casting it. But it's just fun throwing a big bait. I mean, I just like those bigger baits. Sometimes you work them different than
Yep.
conventional tackle. So the fish are seeing something different. It's also fun to work them because you're working them different. You're actually being active with the reel. You're watching the bait move. You're watching other smaller fish just come up and look at the bait. Like, it's like a
Yep.
sightseeing tour sometimes. Like, you're just seeing all these little 1, 2, and 3 pounders, just come up and follow that bait. It's it's fun. It's just
Right.
enjoyable.
So in a somewhat similar way as conventional fishing, it's still
Hmm.
just as much of a learning opportunity every time you go out, right?
Most certainly.
It's the observations and clues and trying to, you know, parlay that into your next time out on the water. But I'm curious, when you go out, how many different rods are you bringing with you? How many different baits are you bringing with you? Um, because
Yeah.
as someone who's not a big bait fisherman, if I'm bringing big baits, it's usually like one or two that
Hmm.
day because I know that the time has to be dedicated.
Yeah, yeah.
One, to figuring out how the bait works best, and two, how the fish want it, right?
Hmm.
And just like Jermaine was saying on one of your guys' last streams, if you bring it and you use it for a little bit, but you have backup options, you're going to go to those backup options, right? And a lot of us are guilty, especially in conventional fishing, of bringing as much as we can.
Yeah.
And just like I went out today
Throwing the
for
kitchen sink at him.
I went out today for an hour to see if this tiny pond that I sometimes fish at was thawed out. And I was hoping it would not only be thawed, but the water would be warmer there than anywhere else, and the fish would be more likely to be active. Um, but
Mhm.
it's a small pond, and usually there's only one or two big fish in it.
Mhm.
Um, Otherwise, it's a lot of small bass, a lot of big bluegill, and a lot of big crappie. So I went out with my BFS setup, which is the opposite of what
Mhm.
you do. Um, it's more just like a for fun type of thing. Just I'm curious in knowing if it's practical for me, if there's a place where I'm going to regularly use a BFS setup or not.
Mhm.
I just wanted to dial that in and try out a few smaller baits. I tried the very smallest size of the new Berkeley Money Badger,
Okay,
and
yeah.
it was perfect on that setup. And I love the action of it. I was
They look
super
good.
surprised. I didn't think I was going to like it quite as much as I do. Um, but
Yeah.
a lot of people have been talking good things about it, so I'm not that surprised that I enjoyed it. But that said,
Yeah.
no eaters on it, but no eaters on anything today, and I probably threw 8 or 10 different presentations in
Mhm.
an hour, right?
Yeah,
So
that's a
like that's
lot.
not uncommon for me. If I'm fishing a small body of water, I'm gonna cover water first to try and get reaction bites, and then I'm gonna slow
Mhm.
down and soak in higher percentage areas. So I'm sure to a certain extent our mindset can be similar in terms of where and how we fish, but what
Definitely.
we're using is different. How often are you changing presentations?
I really don't change them like a ton. Like I think I bring usually around like 10 big baits usually, and I'll bring like I mean this is my tackle box for tomorrow for this week of fishing. I mean it's got a few crankbaits, a few jigs, a frog or two,
Show
some
us.
top waters.
Show us. You're
There
on
you
full
go.
screen.
I just throw it all in there. I'm not very organized. Like this is the only conventional tackle I'm bringing.
You got
So
some walking baits in there, dude. Okay, so
yeah, I got some a little bit of
tell us,
everything.
whereabouts do you live, and what stage are you fishing right now?
So that's a good question. So right now, last year the bass would have been spawning, but we had this big cold front move through, and I'm not sure where they are at right now. So that's why I'm bringing this conventional tackle, is because if I need it to catch spawning bass, sometimes the bass on beds are just scared of the big baits. So sometimes you need to downsize, and that's why I was talking about this little jig here.
Yep.
So they would be spawning. I'm hoping they will be spawning though, because if not, it'll be really tough to catch them. Because whenever a cold
Right.
front moves through this time of year, when they're trying to spawn and trying to get on beds, they just lock down and do not want to do anything because
Yep.
they've already eaten a ton. That's pre-spawn. They really just don't do anything. They're just lethargic and they just sit there.
Right. Just the very end of pre-spawn. They're wanting to
Yeah,
spawn, but they back off and just wait for it to
yeah,
warm back up.
yeah.
So yeah, hopefully that's not what they're doing tomorrow. But so
Hopefully,
where did you say you live?
Georgia,
Georgia.
Georgia. Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Right on. Adam says Brendan is a fraud. What? It's because you're showing conventional baits, and that's not who you're supposed to be tonight. That's
Listen,
funny.
I throw what catches me the biggest fish. If I see an 8 pounder on a bed and it doesn't need a swim bait, I'm throwing everything else I have at it.
You throw BFS, just a different kind.
Yeah, I
Not
do.
bait finesse. Big freaking swim baits.
I'm
Good
gonna
point.
use that. That's hilarious. I love that.
All right. So I am wanting to know how big is big enough when you're throwing big baits, and how big is too big in your eyes? Or is there no such thing as too big?
I think there's definitely such thing as too big. I think for me the max is going to be like I would say 13 inches. Like if anything under 13 inches, I feel like I can probably get a bite on most of that stuff. And anything over 13 inches, I'd be kind of like, I don't know about that. It's a little massive because that's over a foot long.
So do
So
tell, how many different setups do you have for big baits, and which ones do you use for which categories of big baits? Because now that you've kind of downsized your arsenal in a sense, maybe you've then upgraded in other realms to be able to handle, smaller pockets, different styles of baits.
yeah.
What are you working with these days?
So most of my conventional tackle I've given away instead of sold. So
Yeah,
I
let's
haven't
start
really
on the other end of
upgraded
the spectrum.
anything.
Go with your 13-inch baits, because I think everybody might have just thought the same thing. If you're throwing a 13-inch bait, that thing's got to weigh 8+ ounces.
Yeah, it's a little big. I
What
don't
in
have
the
any
hell?
rods that handle
What are
over
you
10
using for
ounces.
that?
So for that, I have an F5 8 foot. I believe it's an extra heavy, fast moderate action. So it's got a weird bend to it. It's a different bend than I've seen on any other like big bait rods, and it's amazing. It's an amazing rod for soft baits and hard baits, which is really hard to find. The Dobbins 806 is a great one, but it's more of a soft bait rod
Right.
in my eyes because it does have a bend that can handle treble hook baits, but it's got a bit of a backbone to it that it really goes almost all the way to the tip, and I feel it is better for soft baits. So that F5 that I have, that is the one I use for my biggest baits I can possibly. So right now I have a Depths 250 tied on to that one
Okay.
currently, and then I
What's the
have
depth 250 weigh? Is that
I
six?
believe 6 ounces.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and then I have the Guide Select from Makuma tied up with a bull shad at the moment. That one handles, I believe it's 2 to 4 ounces, so that one's more of my smaller swim baits. So like I'm throwing the TK on it, or any of like the bull shads under 8 inches, or some of my crank downs or wake baits. So yeah, and then I have another F5, which I'm looking up the one so that way I get the action right. Just want to make sure I'm getting this right.
I assume they have different lure ratings, right?
Yes, they do. Yes. All right.
Are
So
those
the
your
other one I
top
have is the
two heaviest?
no these. So I have the F5 Ghost. That one is the heaviest one that goes to. That's like it goes up to 8 ounces, but it can honestly handle like 10 ounces comfortably. You can go way over that rating. It really doesn't matter. The other one is another Ghost code, 8 foot heavy, 1 to 6 ounce moderate fast. So this is a more medium swim bait, and then the Guide Select is like my small swim bait. So those are the three big bait rods that I have, and then I have an 806, a 795, and a 13 fishing, like really small swim bait rod.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
So you got like 6 different setups
yeah,
geared toward swim baits.
yes, and then I have two conventional setups. Yeah,
Only 2
well, three
to
actually,
handle
three,
all of
three. One's
your
missing a reel.
to handle all of the conventional stuff that you just revealed that you
Yes,
use, from top waters to jigs to crankbaits.
yeah.
Interesting.
You have to really get it all dialed in if you're only going to use three conventional setups. One's
Yeah.
missing the reel because I haven't cleaned it. So
So
yeah.
what are those 2 conventional setups you've got?
So one is the Levante perfect pitch with an SLX. The other one is a G Loomis, I think it's 945 crankbait rod with a Shimano Corrado K. And then the other one is the Orochi Double X perfect, or no, the Orochi Double X perfect pitch with a Corrado K on it as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Hmm.
A little bit of everything in there, just mixed up.
Yeah. So, you've revealed that you're a phony. How how often do you throw conventional? When you go out, are you always bringing
Hmm.
something conventional, or um, is it that you go out and just dedicate a full day to nothing but big baits? How often do you do that?
Hmm. Well, I mean, in the like this time of year, I'm always gonna have like a little jig rod tied on because I
Hmm.
mean, when you're fishing for bedding fish, most of the time, a
Yeah.
jig is gonna get bit if nothing else gets bit. So that's always on my boat, pretty much. I'd say 90% of the time, and then pretty much the rest of the year, I will bring a frog rod on there, just because that's so much fun to fish. I think if you don't throw a frog, it's kind of like, I mean, you're missing out on a lot of fun that you could be having on the
Yeah.
water. So yeah, most of the time I have at least one conventional rod tied on my boat.
Yeah. So do you throw your jigs and your frogs on the same rod?
Yes, I can actually throw them on both rods. The Orochi double X perfect pitch, you can throw jigs and frogs on.
Yeah.
Same with the Levante, so you can throw them.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. So there's crossover between those two megabass routes that you use.
definitely,
Got it.
definitely. Yeah.
Frank?
What's he doing? Is he stirring the pot?
No, he's
Oh
just
no,
asking.
he's not.
Still working on
For
this one.
once. Yeah, what are you drinking tonight? Not that I know.
Heaven Hill, bottled in bond. It's a 7 year. Um,
Very nice.
not super easy to find, but was a gift to me by a friend for my birthday last month. So
Very
slowly
cool.
working on it. We got Caro in the house. I missed your
What's
comment.
up, Caro?
How you doing? Um, John Smith in the house. Yo yo.
Hello.
Tennessee Bassmaster. I wish I could remember your name. You've told me like 3 or 4 times by now,
I
and
don't
I
know his
feel
name.
bad.
What is his name? I can't remember. I don't think he's ever told me.
I'm gonna guess it wrong, so I don't want to guess it. Ah, dang
I
it.
don't know. Just call him TN Bassmaster.
I know, but I like to be able to call people by their first names. It's more fun when,
Yeah.
obviously it's easy when people have their name as their
Hmm.
YouTube channel, but it's not that way for everybody. Danny, thank you, Carl.
Okay, there we go.
All right. And another thing that I'm kind of a nitpicker on, this is just English, but is it Caro or Caro? Please do tell. Um, put a 1 for Caro and a 2 for Caro. Let us know the correct pronunciation of your name. The reason I'm a
I'm voting for
nitpicker is that my
Caro.
wife, my wife's name is Juliana, and almost
Okay.
everybody would pronounce it Juliana, right?
Okay. Okay.
Care. Yeah, nice try. Caroline. Cairo. Cairo?
All right.
Okay, so we were all wrong.
All right then.
Caro. No. She said Cairo. Is it Cairo or is it Caro? I think you mean to say Caro. And I think Brendan was right all along. Brendan for the win.
Yay!
Well, we could just call you Caroline if you'd like.
There you go.
Maybe that's old fashioned. All right, so I wanted to ask about some of the baits that I have, and if you have
Okay.
opinions on them, because over the last year or two, I've probably bought more swim baits than I should have. Um,
That's how it
you know,
starts.
right? Exactly. It's stupid, but also awesome, right? I think most of us who have the sickness are going to go down that rabbit hole to a certain extent at
Yeah.
some point, right?
Hmm.
So it started with just getting a Fury 795, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and then this past year, I already forget what rod I got that handles the bigger.
I think you got the 806,
No, I didn't.
I believe.
Mm-mm. I wanted to say it was
Which
the
one was it?
Daiwa DX swim bait rod, but I don't think it is.
Did you unbox it live?
Yeah. It's upstairs. I can
I
grab
know
it
you
if
unboxed
and
the
when I need to
tranks.
pee. If and when I need to pee, I'll grab it from upstairs.
All
But
right.
yeah, I got it for some of the heavier baits that I have, and like currently, I have the
What's the heaviest one you have at the moment? Like
Magnum
a,
Shine Glide is tied onto it upstairs in a
I
different
like
color.
that color.
Like this dude's only it's 4.5 ounces and 9 inches.
Yeah, that's really light for that size of a bait. Like that's
Right.
really light.
Yeah.
Like the
So
bullshit I have up there
it would probably handle
is
okay
like
on the
6.
795, but I find that its sweet spot is really like wants to top out at about 3.
Mm.
Um, in my opinion, at least I just start to get nervous at that point. But
Mm.
some of I don't even have like a ton of really heavy big baits. I guess the biggest one that I've got is the iSlide 262.
Oh, that's a sweet bait.
So
Once I send you one,
you
it'll
say
be a little
it's
bigger than
sweet.
that.
What's sweet about it?
You know the action. It's a big bait, but you can work it extremely fast, and it has that nice jerk bait action. So it's really good in the early months. It's not really. I mean, you can reel it like straight, and it has that nice smooth S motion to just draw those fish in, and then you can twitch it real hard with your rod or your reel, and that thing gets going. It's great for getting reaction
Would you
strikes.
make a modification to this?
I would. So here's my thing with modifications. I always fish it stock, how it comes, stock hooks, everything stock. See how I like it. Try to catch a fish on it. And if I like how it swims, then I'll just change out the hooks and add whatever weight or take out weight, just depending on how the bait is, to get it to fish exactly how it fishes stock.
Right.
But if I don't like it as it is stock, and I make modifications accordingly, and I still don't like it, it's getting out, it's getting sold. I only fish baits that catch fish that I like to fish. Anything that I don't like is getting sold or traded
Got it. So
for
you're not
something new.
trying to make a bait something other than what it was designed to be.
Yeah, sometimes I'll mess around with stuff and just make it, do weird stuff. Like this. This one right here is a great example. So I noticed that the flea shed that I recently bought. This is a bull 4x4. See the lip's broken off of it. Well, I broke the lip. I casted it off into a tree, and the lip snapped. This is the thing with bull shads. I reeled it in really fast, and it stayed underwater, and it had this really tight, extremely tight swim to it. And I was like, dang, that looks really
With
good.
the
So all I
broken
did,
lip?
yeah, with the broken lip. And I think the reason is because the head is a little bit fatter than the actual tip of the tail. So it's going to add that nice action on there whenever you reel it fast. So it's
Yeah.
a wake bait, so it floats. So I just added a little bit more weight onto this bait, and it worked amazingly. So
You didn't fix the lip? Show us that
no,
lip.
I did not. That
Show us
fish
that
is
lip.
that fish is perfectly fine. You can
What?
see that right there. So
It's not
I have not.
symmetrical and it swims fine?
It swims great. I don't understand why though.
Well, when
Like I
you showed
mean,
it from the front, it looked like it was broken
yeah,
at like a wild angle.
it is. There you go,
So
right
it's
there.
not symmetrical, and you didn't then
I
make
did not.
alterations to it?
No, I didn't even have to tune the line tie. I did have to tune the joint a little bit and tweak the joint to get it to swim properly. I believe that's because there's a little bit more left on that side.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting bait now. It's like a totally different bait. It swims
Wow.
different. It's
Nope,
really interesting.
I zoomed this
But
in again. Wow,
yeah,
that is so wild.
it's really
I
weird.
could never imagine that a bait with a broken lip would still swim right, or
I
that
know,
you'd
it's
get it
weird.
to swim right.
I'll send a an action video if I can get one in my pool. If it's not too windy, I'll get an action video and send it to the chat. It's
Yeah,
really
that would
good.
be
It's
interesting.
actually like really
So
good.
the reason that I asked that question was specifically because I think Austin from Dreamcatchers,
Hmm.
he was the one dude that talked about like really changing the eye slide, like
Yeah, cutting the joint.
drastically shaved down the joint
Hmm.
so that then he walks it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I was just wondering if you make modifications to baits like that in your opinion, maybe is a great design, but either the size of the bill, the shape of the bill,
Hmm.
the steepness of the joint, anything like that,
Hmm.
are you playing around or not much? Do you see that
Yeah.
as like, since you are capable of making your own baits, you'd rather just do that all on your own? And
Hmm.
if you're using someone else's bait, you kind of want to do right by them
Hmm.
if you can. And if you don't like it, then move it on to someone else.
Yeah, definitely. Some baits you can just tell. Like, I mean, being a bait maker, you can kind of tell. All right, the lip's placed at this angle, or the weight. I can see where the weight is. I can see how far up in the bait is. I can see how much weight it is, or I can see the body shape. I can see the angle of the joint. I can just tell some of these things. That you're like, I can get a pretty good idea of how that's going to swim and what happens if I do this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never tried that with the ice slide. So I don't know. I
Yeah, and
really need to get
I
the
don't
bait in my
plan to,
hands.
right?
You
It's an
know.
expensive bait, and
Yeah.
that makes me nervous. I want to learn how it's supposed to be used and what makes it different from another, because
Yeah.
I think that's just going to give it its own place. And then maybe, like you, if I turn out to not like it, then I'll either give it away or sell it or what have
Yeah.
you. But
I'll buy it from you or trade it. But
so
this one
you
right
are
here,
a fan of the eye slide.
yeah, it's a good bait. Like this bait right here is a perfect example. I have two of these. These are the GFBs. Honestly, the best budget glide bait that a garage maker makes. These things are amazing. I mean, like legit amazing. There's a little bit of tuning you have to do though, and these are
And that's a
different.
massive profile. Is that
It's actually
Would you
really,
consider that like a gizzard shad or a bluegill
yeah,
or a hybrid? It's more of a
yeah.
gizzard,
It's more of
right?
a gizzard shad,
Yeah.
but these are great baits. So the greatest thing about them is they come as a blank. This is how they come. He does not paint them. So there's a lot of things you can do. You can see where the weight is. Oh, there you go. You can see where the weight is placed.
Yep.
All I had to do is take a drill and drill holes in the side to find out how far up in the bait it is, and then put more white resin over it so you can't even see the holes anymore.
Huh.
Then I
So you
also,
did that to learn about the bait or
yeah,
to?
yeah, to learn where the weight is placed and how
Hmm.
high up in it is. So you can see that little hole right there.
Yeah.
I drilled that out, that little bit of resin out. That's going to make the bait. It was seeming to sink a little bit head up, so I drilled that little bit out right there just to level it out a little bit more. Then I went ahead and if you, this is really hard to like do on camera, so I'm sorry guys, but if you look at the joint and you flip it back and forward, and if it creates it's going to create a triangle in between the screw eyes and where the bait hits right there.
Yeah, I can see that.
Let's see. There you go. There you go. So you can see that triangle in between the screw eyes and where the joint hits on the bait.
Yep.
If that triangle's even on both sides, your bait is going to swim even. It's gonna glide evenly as long as it sinks level.
Hmm.
Then the good thing about these baits, I've never found this with any other brush guards. You can bend the tail and it stays where you bend it, kind of. So I can bend this tail a little bit and just hold it there, and it's going to be bent that way. So you can get this bait to glide out slightly further to the side, to one side or the other. So if you're fishing a certain side of dock that you know there's a fish sitting there, you can make it glide a little further that way. Another
Interesting.
great thing about this bait is
That's cool.
yeah, it's an amazing bait. You can pop out the pin and tune the joint in there as well. But yeah, it's a great bait.
Well, for you, maybe. I mean, it sounded like you made a lot of adjustments there. So to
Yeah.
the average person, if someone in here is like, "What bait was that again? Tell us again. What bait is
Yeah.
that?" Just how friendly is it to a
You
Joe
can,
Schmo to be able to tune or not?
yeah. So, I mean, I'm just going to put this out there. If anyone has one of these baits and they want it to swim a certain way, just send it to me and I'll take care of it. Just pay for the shipping. But these come straight out of the package, perfectly fine. You can fish these great. I'm just fine tuning them to be fitting my style of fishing better.
Right.
So they fish great out of like straight out of the package. They swim great. But I did sand down the joints a little bit too. I just wanted this thing to walk kind of like a K9, but have a gizzard profile. So specifically for fishing docks. So for $100, You cannot beat this bait. Amazing,
That
especially being
was going
resin.
to be a question of mine. When you say one of the more affordable, really
Hmm.
good baits that you can get from a garage maker, right?
Yes,
Um,
definitely. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. It's a little hard to get a hold of Mikey. Usually it takes him a couple of days to get back to you. He might not
Mikey,
even be able.
Mikey who?
Mikey's the guy who makes these baits right here.
And what's the
So
name of the company?
GFB swim baits.
GFB.
Yes. It's a little hard to get a hold of him. I know him pretty well, so if you guys can't get a hold of him, contact me and I'll see what I can do to get you a bait.
Interesting.
So, yeah, they're great baits, great baits. I love them.
So I don't think I have any other like big baits really.
You have that,
In like hard baits, right? Because
oh
after
yeah.
that, like the new Bass Pro Glide is what, 3 ounces. Um, and then aside from that, like I've only got a slide swimmer and a 175.
Ooh, I don't have a 175. How does that fish? Does it fish good?
Well, I don't have a lot of reference because I haven't thrown the other sizes, right? Um,
Okay.
Now it's smooth, and in my opinion, it glides pretty wide. I'd say
Hmm.
probably 2 feet laterally from
From
center.
its. Okay.
So it
Okay.
depends on how hard you hit it, but
Yeah.
um, good. But I'm also nervous to put it in probably the places that it needs to be.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that's annoying about being a noob when it comes to swim bait fishing and
Hmm.
fishing from the bank, right?
That's very
Like,
hard with
oh
big
man,
baits.
the fear of losing a bait is real, you know?
It is.
And I don't always go fishing with my swim trunks on, dude. So like I'm not always prepared to strip down and jump in and go retrieve my bait.
Well, here you can't do that. I mean, gators, snakes, turtles. You can't really do that here unless you're on
Yes, yeah, I don't have
a
to worry about
boat.
that, but my water doesn't. My like right
Yeah.
now for the next 2 months, until the fish are spawning, like I'm not going in the water.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
It's so cold right now.
Yeah.
But then
But that's
otherwise, like the Tiny Clash and the I'm a Glide Fluke,
that's
and
what I hear a lot of people like, and I've never bought one. It's I hear a lot of people say a lot of good things about that bait.
well, um, I have 2 colors. Do you want one?
Heck yeah. Just let me know how much and I'll send you whatever for it.
Well, no, I'm gonna send you the 7-inch Spark Shad that I have sitting up in a box.
Okay.
Which are you more likely to throw?
Dude, I don't care. I'll probably repaint
Stick.
it. So I mean
Yeah,
so
odds are you would. It's so yeah.
you
I'll
fish
think
whatever you
about it,
want,
or
man.
if you have an opinion, you let me know whether you'd rather just a full chrome. Maybe you could work off of this base a little bit
Oh
better.
yeah, with the chrome. Yeah, you could put
Yeah,
some candy colors over that and get some like flash through it. Pretty
yeah,
sick.
right. So you could just work off of that base.
Yeah, man.
Probably a little
Hey,
bit
if you
easier. Although the other one is super ghosty, and
yeah, well, I can always sand down the paint and it gets that nice clear
yeah.
on there. So I
Yeah,
mean,
so
if
this is
you
another
want,
one that like I bought because I had heard such good things. This is a more of a saltwater striper bait, right?
really, huh?
Yep.
I didn't know
This is
that.
like what it's like, why it's so popular. And there's a few baits like that out there, but that's I haven't put enough time into it. Um,
Hmm,
and I'm really excited to actually use the Arma joint
those are cool.
this year. Didn't actually use it once last season. I have 2 of them, and I'm excited to have it. Do you throw the G Rat at all?
Yeah,
Do you throw it in
they're
the
pretty
bigger
sweet.
one?
I do not have the pop-up beat. I only have the pistol beat, and I lost mine, so I'll
Well,
probably buy another
this is
one.
the sneaky, and then the
Or
pistol is
wait,
the little guy. So you
am
probably
I
have
getting it confused? I have the middle size.
yeah. This
I
is
think
the
it's like
sneaky
seven
Pete,
inches.
7 inches.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, there
that's
we go.
probably the one you've got. But this one has a pretty extreme
Hmm.
angle, and I
Those are made
find
for fishing in current, actually. So the guys that design those, they design those mostly for rivers and striper, actually. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, I
they
thought that
actually work
it's a
good
lot
in
more
rivers.
sensitive than a lot of
Hmm.
other baits. Kind
Yeah,
of
it can handle that current,
interesting.
which is
Okay.
really hard for a bait to do, is to handle current and work how it's supposed to. So a lot of guys that fish striper love those.
Now, do you throw any cheap swim baits? Do you throw any
Um,
BBZ swim baits from Spro? Do you throw any
I throw the Spro
cast
Rat.
wavers in their bigger sizes or smaller? And do you
I
throw the Savage
throw
Gear Shine Glide?
As far as hard baits go, I definitely throw the Spro Rat. I love that one. The
Oh, here's
Gantrel, the
that pistol, by the
Vitalian.
way.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I definitely have the middle size.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Gantrel, Spro Rats, Vitalian, some other like blanks that I got off on the internet, and a JDM swim bait that's actually resin that was $30. It's
Wow.
handmade in resin. It's crazy. I was very surprised. It's actually not a swim bait. It's really a wake bait, but it looks like a glide.
$30, huh?
Yeah, 30
How'd you,
bucks for.
how'd you do that?
Yeah, I found it on Lure Slingers. It's actually a Dran Crazy. I can show it if you want, but
Would you call it
it's
Dran Crazy? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that brand.
Yeah, it looks like it's plastic and it feels like it's plastic, but I cut it open, or I cut a little piece off the joint and it's actually resin.
Hmm.
So it's pretty sweet. It's actually a great wake bait. These two fins down here, ow. These two fins, it's kind of hard to see, but they come out like that and they keep it really stable. It doesn't glide, but it wakes amazingly. So
Cool.
$30. It's a great bait.
All right, everybody's talking smack, and I there were a couple of questions in there, and I, totally bricked them. So let's try and find one or two,
All right.
because everybody's chitting and chatting, but nope, I don't know
Nope, they're not
who
released
had them
yet.
on sale.
They are getting released at the Bassmaster Classic, and then the Hookup Tack will have them at
Right.
12:01 a.m., I believe.
Yeah. Well, we all saw that,
Yeah.
but who already got them? What are you talking
Nobody
about?
has them yet. Nobody. Unless you work with Hookup Tackle or Megabass.
Right. Yeah, or for the guys
Yeah.
at Tackle Tour or Wired to
Yeah.
Fish or anybody like that, right?
Someone like
They're
that.
probably more likely to get them.
Hmm.
Sorry that we're skipping so many questions. I'll try to keep a little bit closer of an eye, but
Oh, main
difficult
start
when you guys are
fishing.
all talking amongst each other.
Yeah, they
And
always have the side conversations.
goodness,
Jermaine has a little side note here for you guys. He wants Tyler you to get into uh the. Are you
oh,
gonna
you're
enter
cutting
into
out.
that?
Get into the what?
Are you gonna get into the YouTuber tournament that is going on for us?
I can't say I know what it is.
Oh,
I'm
so
sorry that I haven't. You
I think
tell.
it was while you were gone. I think it was while you were gone that we talked from Southeast Georgia kayak bass fishing. He runs a lot of the KBF stuff for online stuff. So he was kind enough to put together a YouTuber tournament for all of us. And he's going to be putting that on
Cool.
1st of April is when it starts, $31 to enter. He breaks down
Hmm.
how the money's going to be split up against the people and 5 fish limit. He talks about all the rules on his YouTube channel and live stream and also on his Instagram.
How long is it
And
going?
from April 1st to April 31st.
A month
So,
long to catch the 5 biggest fish?
yes, yeah. It's we're already doing smack talk. Jermaine and I are betting baits against each other, and it's it's
That's
gonna get
cool.
brutal.
Well, I'm interested, but quite honestly, that would probably be close to throwing away $31 or whatever it is. Because if we're being honest, my PB is like 5.5 pounds,
Mhm.
and so the likelihood of me having a bag north of 20 pounds
Mhm.
is pretty slim, right?
But
Like,
you're going off of inches, so if you have long, skinny fish, you're good.
okay, so it is like kayak style rules in that way. So
Yeah, it's by
5
length.
longest fish, not 5
Hmm.
heaviest fish.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I'm interested, and I am competitive, so I think it'd be
Hmm.
fun to just be involved in the action and
Well,
uh,
I mean,
encourage each other, and also talk some smack. I like that.
you wouldn't be throwing your money away. You'd be sending it to me pretty much, just
Ah,
so that way I can keep on building
yeah,
baits. I
exactly.
mean,
It's like you and Adam Odin, if he knew where to fish in Florida, would have a huge advantage. Adam, you got to get away from your local ponds for a minute and find some hogs, dude. Not to say that you don't have some decent fish, but I feel like you've kept up in that tournament because of numbers, dude. You've been grinding like
yeah, you've
a
been going.
madman and catching a ton of fish, which is fun, right? Um, Maybe Brendan doesn't think so, but the rest of us conventional fishermen, um, the tug is the drug, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't necessarily matter how big the fish is. Of course, we always want to catch bigger fish, but
Hmm.
most of us are limited on time, and we're going fishing, but hoping to go catching.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I it feels like unfair for the folks who live in the southeast.
Jermaine says they
Um,
both suck.
all right,
Oh,
so now I see where Jermaine had asked, and so I'm kind of caught up there. Let
I
$40 is
think.
budget for a swim bait. That is
Yeah, yeah, true.
that
I
is
mean, for
true.
a garage swim bait though is like, you know, most garage swim baits are like over $100. But
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
not really like
yeah,
mainstream, right? If
definitely.
we're talking mainstream baits,
Yeah,
the
S
S Waver
Waver, G
200 is
Rat.
probably where that line is of budget, right? It's like
Yep.
45 bucks or something like that. And that's why you'll notice that in the last handful of years, as more average brands have been putting out swim baits,
Hmm.
that they tend to be priced in that like $30 to $40 range to try and appeal to
Yeah.
the masses and that type of customer that just might dip their toes into it.
Hmm.
Uh, like, what do you think about the Arashi Glide? I think a lot of
It's
people
great.
you like it.
Yeah, it's not. It's a great bait for that price. I mean, Brandon Palaniuk, he like smashes fish on it. So I mean, there's
Yep.
nothing wrong with it. I'm sure he does a lot of modifications to it and whatnot. But I mean, it's a cheap bait. It works. It catches fish. It does what it's supposed to do. You know.
Yep. Yeah, it's what, like $30. I'll
I think
say
it's
I.
38.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
discount tackle, baby. Um, so yeah, I used that Arashi swimmer last year, the multi-jointed one.
Oh, is that the three piece, right?
Yeah, and I couldn't really figure it out. It felt weird to me. I didn't like it nearly as much as the Glide version. Um, I might not have even put it back. Yeah, I did.
I love swimmers. I honestly like a lipped swimmer more than like a glide bait. Honestly,
Yeah,
because
right.
I can
Like
fish them fast. I mean,
right.
a glide bait you can fish fast too, but you
So
know.
like these two are significantly different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where
Yep.
the swimmer is it's skinnier
Yep.
and it's lighter. Um, and then obviously, you get that action, but I I couldn't get it to do what I wanted it to do. Um,
And what was that specifically?
I was wanting it to stay down. I was wanting it to have the option to be erratic. Sorry, I'm trying to get you back in here. um,
Where's
so
Daniel?
I was at one specific body of water where smallmouth eat perch this exact same size. And I had posted a picture of this next to an actual perch, and they were
Hmm.
the same. Uh,
Yeah.
so from a profile standpoint, awesome, but it wasn't swimming straight. I don't know if it's
Really?
a main difference is that on the Arashi Glide, it's got this fixed line tie, and on the Arashi Swimmer, it has a swiveling line tie.
No, that shouldn't be a problem. I mean,
Um,
most swimmers have that line tie that's like this. So on a swimmer and a glide bait, since the motion is this way, you want the line tie to be that way so your line on can move on that ring
yeah.
this way with the bait. If you're doing a crank down, you want the line tie the other way so that way the line can move up and down on that ring.
but what if it's
If it swivels, it's like the ganterel, but the ganterel's on top of the bait, so it changes
right?
that. So I don't know about that bait. Can you hold the nose up a little bit to see how much it's pointed? Like the top profile, sorry. That's a pretty gradual and steep point to it. And I don't know. That's interesting.
I mean, it.
I might
I
now
guess
need now
I
I need
should
to
have
get one.
weighted it heavier to get it down to where I wanted to be able to hug it closer to bottom. I think it's probably meant to be swum higher or in the middle of the water column.
Yeah,
Um,
that's how swimmers are usually fished, is
and
just under the bottom.
these perch were down on bottom, so
Yeah.
I was trying to get it to where the fish were, and
Hmm.
I don't know. It was hard to. Like, I couldn't see what it was doing far out until it got closer, and then of course, by the time that it's closer, any bait's
Gonna do
gonna
weird
look
stuff.
different, act different when it's close in, right? So
Yeah.
I don't fully know, but
Hmm.
I did not develop much confidence in it, other than the fact that it looks like a perch.
Yeah, I
So
would say probably a HUD would have been a better bet. Just weight that HUD down really really good and
totally,
just
and
drag it or
have
bounce it.
I have I think an 8-inch HUD in a perch pattern that
Hmm.
would have been perfect. So big mistake there, but I don't even know where that's hiding right now.
I mean, that's like a part of swim baits. Like you just got to learn all of your baits that you have to
Right.
see in what situations they're going to best, perform in. Just like
Yeah.
conventional tackle, you can't fish a crankbait in grass mats. You're gonna either punch, you're gonna flip, or you're gonna frog, most of the time, or drag a worm across it.
Yep. So what do you anticipate catching your 5 fish on in the month of April?
I'm probably gonna do a lot of damage with the Depths 250. I think I've been catching a lot of fish on it, and probably a bull shad as well. I'm thinking a chatterbait maybe too.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking.
chatter.
I've actually got a secret trailer. Do you want me to show it on the stream here?
Yes, dude. You did not mention that after my stream 2 nights ago. You need to show it now. And whatever, it'll still be somewhat of a secret. There's only a couple hundred people that watch this. It's not.
I'm gonna
And
hold it
to
up.
the couple hundred of you guys who will watch this over the next couple of days, please do both of us a favor. Go over to Brendan's channel, Brown Bait Co., and subscribe if you're not already.
Yes,
He's over
please do.
1,000
Thank you.
subscribers and can monetize now. Is that correct?
Yes, I can if I
Well,
start
heck yeah,
posting
dude.
and get off my butt.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you on that. I keep saying that I'm gonna ship your packages, and then I'm gonna make new videos. And where are we? I show up once a week to hang out with you guys, and that's about it. And I'm not here to make excuses, but I am limited on time. And
No,
I'm
I
realizing
understand
that,
it.
like, yesterday and today, trying to get out on the water. Oh,
Mhm.
it feels like I'm sneaking out of the house. It's like when my son is sleeping and I know that my wife is here. She doesn't even know I'm going fishing. And I managed to
Bad
time it. Like,
idea.
my daughters were at a birthday party yesterday. And today my daughters were at a play that my mother-in-law took them to. And I'm like, oh, dang, I got an opportunity. And I'm freaking out about how this season's going to go for me and whether I'm going to be able to, like, actually get out as much as I have in the past handful of years, but
Mhm.
I'll find time.
Sweet. So I'm gonna throw out the bait and see if any of you guys can guess what it is in the comments. I do a modification to this bait as well, to make sure it
You did
fits.
that tail.
I do modification to this bait. I do not do the tails though. This
What?
comes stock. That is stock.
The tail is stock. I mean, it looks
Yes.
kind of like a Sebile,
It does. It does.
but it's not a Sebile.
Nope, it's not a Sebile. It has
Mm.
that jointed. Look at that
Of
action
course,
right there.
first glance, it was like, oh, that looks a hair like a razor shad or something, a Z-Man type of
Yeah. It's not the.
bait.
Yeah, it's just the regular plastic.
Huh. Yeah, rabbit something. Yeah, well, yeah, because rabbit makes those tails,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. This is actually, in fact, a rabid shad. So
really,
Rabid Baits makes these. I'm not sure how long these have been out. I know Jeff over at Burley Fishing had these, I think, 2 years ago, and he couldn't say anything about them because they weren't released yet. So I'm pretty sure they were released like a year or two ago. And all you do is mend it in the hook slot, so that way it seals the hook slot shut, so that way it becomes one solid piece, and cut the head off right about there. So that way you have less length and you have, just a little bit more compact on your chatterbait. And that tail right there, it looks really good in the water. Absolutely amazing. So, oh, we got him on the phone.
Yeah, no
Sorry,
big
man.
deal. My wife was calling. And I do have to pee, but I thought I would. I wanted to hear what. So, wow,
Yeah.
what do you think that tail does?
It does. It moves. It moves. It has this very subtle movement to it. It doesn't add a ton of drag in the water. You can see it has two different kinds of fur in the tail, though. It has
Yep.
this really like fluffy marabou kind of stuff, but it
Yeah,
has this really thick like
more of a stiff
hair
fox
kind
or
of stuff.
horse
Yeah,
hair or something like that.
it's very interesting. So, and then it has these ribs, so it's like perfect for a chatterbait. But it
Yeah.
doesn't add a ton of drag, so it's not going to mess up the action as much.
Hmm.
And it has this very just nice profile to it, and the good colors too, and a good action. So durability is, kind of iffy on these. The plastic has
Yeah.
always been bad on the rabbit baits, but they're pretty sweet.
Well,
Yeah.
what do you expect? A lot of the best chatterbait
hmm
trailers are
Yeah.
meh durability, right?
So I'm making molds for this one, and I just need to put marabou in the mold, and I'll be able to pour up as many as I want.
Right on. Marabou in the mold.
Yep.
Is that how they pour them? It's not like some
hmm
of their other ones where they're actually like,
No.
threading it through and whatever
No,
else.
this is infused. So basically, the mold is like two halves. It's an aluminum mold.
Yeah.
They put it in two halves. There's a little space in the mold
Yeah.
where there's a negative space in the mold where the plastic is going to be shot into, and the marabou, just the tip of it is going to be sitting in that negative space.
Right. And the rest is outside the mold.
Yep. Yeah, or it's
And
really
the
encased
plastic
inside the
goes
mold.
over all of that hair. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And they,
durability of the tail is probably fine.
it's
But
great. You can pull on it fine.
yeah,
But
cool.
yeah, I believe they do cauterize the marabou, so that way it stays in one piece, so that way it's a little bit more durable, so you don't like pull out like little bits of it here and there.
Yeah.
So they probably just
Wow,
burn that out the
fascinating.
lighter. Yeah,
Well, where do you get them? I mean, rabbit. I
I
honestly
have
have
mine.
no rabbit baits, and I have only been vaguely interested.
hmm
And same deal when like fellow discount tackle ambassador Jimmy from RAR Fishing. Um, he's like one of Mike from One Rod One Reel. He's like friends with that dude. Um, RAWR. He does a ton of lure modifications and like making his own. Uh, I don't know. He's fiddling around with soft plastics and little jigs and things like that. I'm sure that Adam Myhera knows and likes him because they're from the same region of the country. But he does that same stuff in just threading hair through plastics and in the tail and things like that. Brendan is out of here. What just happened? Hopefully he'll come back. Maybe that was his service cutting out earlier. Um, hopefully he'll be right back. But interesting conversation. This has kind of gone like back and forth a little bit. Let's bring you
Okay,
back.
you're good.
Yeah, we're back.
Okay, good.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
hopefully.
it's been
A little.
intermittent that you've kind of cut out, and that time you just vanished. But
Okay,
all good,
okay.
dude. No biggie.
All right.
So, wow, you just giving us a little conventional fishing juice right there. Interesting.
Yeah, I found these at my local tackle store, and I was like, "That's sick. That's going on a chatterbait." A few packs, and they're a little
Yeah.
expensive. It was $6 for 5. So
Yeah.
making a mold is definitely gonna be important.
Yeah, that is pretty expensive. And that was my main hiccup with this dude right here, right? And I mentioned
Oh
it the other
yeah,
night. Is
yeah.
like These retail at $10 a pack. There's 5.
I've heard they're
That's
really durable,
that's
but I'm not
overpriced.
sure about that.
I don't care how durable they are, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, you look at
that's true.
any of the
A
Z-Man
Z-Man.
bait, and they're half the price, right?
Very true.
So this is just an
But it has the power
overpriced.
bait scent.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't buy in. Now I did have the opportunity to try that picture perfect combo um,
Mhm.
for about an hour yesterday,
Okay.
and then I threw it at the place I went today, hoping to catch 1 or 2 of the bigger fish in that pond.
Mhm.
And I will say I like the slobber knocker. The trailer I can't say one way or another. As I think Matt mentioned the other night,
Mhm.
I think the fact that it's a little bit subtle in nature
Mhm.
is probably a fine thing. But the Zako is so tried and true that at a cheaper price point, I don't see why I wouldn't stay with that
Yeah.
if I'm looking for that profile, right?
Mhm.
Um,
You could take a here's another little hot tip. Take a butter knife, heat it up like with a blowtorch,
yep.
and take it and just stick it on the sides of that bait to make those creases like the Zako has. So that way it gives it a little more
On the side
bend,
of
a little
what
more
bait?
actions.
The power stinger?
Yeah, you could just go ahead
No,
and do that.
I mean theoretically the honeycomb is supposed to do that, right?
Well, but at the same time, that's material that's in the way in that area. It's not acting as a joint, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, you're right. So it's softish, but
It has resistance. It's
so you
pulling
think
against
maybe
itself.
like here.
No, in the actual jointing, like in the actual honeycomb area, just add
Really?
like one or
You'd go
two.
deeper than that? I think it's going to
Oh
burn the
yeah,
bait. Like this thing
no,
is
not just a
pretty
little bit.
hollow.
Just like burn out some of the honeycomb
Okay, so
inside
you
the
think
bait.
in certain areas make your own
Mm-hmm.
joints, like maybe
Yeah.
2 of them. Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what
an
I would
idea.
do. I mean,
But still, should you have to make modifications like that
nope. Just
to
buy
an
the
already
Zako.
expensive bait that's all hyped up and everything?
Yeah.
I'm almost immediately passing on this bait,
Mm-hmm.
the Power Stinger as a trailer. Now the Slobber Knocker, I will say, um, the one thing that jumped out at me more than anything in my first hour and a half of using it is
Mm-hmm.
the sound.
Yep.
You can hear it as it's coming back, and like I thought it would be, it's definitely an in-between sound
There you go.
compared to the jackhammer and the thunder cricket. The jackhammer is an obnoxiously loud whacking sound, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
super metallic. I don't know the best way to describe it, but
It thumps.
it
It hits.
sounds like metal hitting metal and loudly.
Mm-hmm.
The thunder cricket is kind of quiet.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot faster of a
I.
movement, whereas that jackhammer is whacking every time. The thunder cricket almost doesn't make much contact with the
Mm-hmm.
head. Slobber knocker does, but a little bit slower than the jackhammer does,
Mm-hmm.
and it has a lower knocking sound.
Mm-hmm.
I would almost consider it like a one knocker sound if you were to compare it to a crankbait.
Yeah.
And that alone gave me a lot of confidence knowing, okay, that is different. Just the way that it sounds. And I think we all know by now that a chatterbait is as effective as it is because of the sound that it makes, in addition to the vibration in the water that it pushes. But the sound is a big deal. So I think there definitely is a time and place, not just the fact that it is supposed to be more weedless, come through cover,
Mm-hmm.
specifically hardcover, like wood better than others. So I'll also put that to the test in my limited amount of experience. It has. I threw it more around riprap yesterday for an hour. Um, it it wants to run a little bit lower than a jackhammer does,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm
What
not
weight
mad
did you
about.
get?
I have them in 3/8 and half.
Okay, which one are you using
I
most of the time?
I throw a 3/8 most of the time,
Okay,
and
gotcha.
I hate to say I don't know 100% whether it was the 3/8 or the half that I threw yesterday. Pretty sure it was a 3/8, but it felt more like a half ounce jackhammer
Okay.
in terms of where it wanted to run
Mm,
along riprap. So, um, not a bad thing either, just an observation. But that that skirt runs long,
it
um,
does. Yeah.
and I
You need
didn't
to
trim
thin
it
it
like
and
I
trim
said I
it.
was going to, so that was a little bit of a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But not a big deal. I like the feel of it now. Like Jermaine did mention once, it's not quite as consistent as a jackhammer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wouldn't say you need to like pop it to get it to start up or anything like that, but I did find that I lost feel of it a little bit more frequently than I would have liked when changing speeds.
Uh-huh.
So I frequently will change speed throughout a retrieve. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's usually with the reel more than with the rod. I'm not popping my rod very
Yeah.
frequently unless it's getting hung in grass, which I don't
Mm-hmm.
have happen all that often. I find that I can do most of the work with the reel handle. And every 4 to 6 turns of the reel handle, I will pump it once or twice and get that bait to dart off or jump up and then come back. And
Yeah.
the jackhammer has been so predictable for me that that was a little bit funny for me that I lost feel a couple times.
Mm.
And I knew it wasn't me mistaking it for a bite, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
bait's still coming at me, and not with it in a fish's mouth. So
Yeah.
that kind of bothered me that I felt like then I had to start burning the chatterbait or the slobber knocker to get doing its thing again. We'll see, whether that's a consistent thing from bait to bait. But
Mm-hmm.
with only having fished one of them for a limited period of time, those are a couple observations, and I'm
Hmm.
pretty excited about it.
Yeah. What line were you using with it?
Surprisingly, I was using braid to a leader, so like 30-pound braid to a
Oh.
15-pound fluorocarbon leader. And I
Okay.
usually throw straight 15-pound fluorocarbon most of the
Really?
time on a chatterbait. Yep.
Okay.
What about
I
you?
I throw straight braid on spinnerbaits and chatterbaits,
Interesting.
and I've used fluorocarbon, and I don't like that you can't feel the bait as well, because I'm
Hmm,
always popping it through grass or crawling it through cover of some sort,
sure.
which is interesting. I don't. I mean, I know a lot of people throw it on fluorocarbon or monofilament,
Yep.
but yeah, I've always braid has just made sense for me. I wonder if it could have been that you had that leader.
Yeah,
I don't
definitely
really
could have
know.
been. I just get nervous throwing straight braid around riprap too much, right?
Okay, yeah, definitely.
I don't like retying all that often. And when it's riprap and straight braid, it's inevitable, right?
Hmm.
So even still, I had a couple frays that by the end of that hour yesterday, I was like, if
Hmm.
I hooked up, that would have been risky.
Yeah,
But yeah,
definitely.
I don't throw straight braid on very many things anymore, other than obviously like a frog. But
Hmm.
mm,
Hmm.
yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
and I've kind of gotten away from throwing braid as much as I used to. Um,
Hmm.
and I don't know if it's that when I break off, I'm blowing up a reel. I hate having to
Ah.
respool braid.
Hmm.
It's so damn strong that that's been an issue for me. Um, is blowing reels up with braid, whether it's a backlash or more specifically a snag and breaking off when it's straight
Hmm.
braid. That can be an advantage of throwing a leader on is that then
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
oftentimes it'll break at the leader knot or at the knot at where the bait's tied on. But
Palomar knot has never failed me. With an
yeah,
FG and Palomar, those are two of the most consistent knots.
yeah,
I
and that's
mean,
what sucks when you get hung on straight braid
yeah, very
and the
true.
knot doesn't break and the line has to.
Yeah,
And I hate to be
definitely.
that guy, when I'm fishing these spots and then I get hung on other people's line,
Oh
and
yeah,
then I'm bringing in just line on line, and I'm like, yeah,
definitely.
no one wants to be that guy, and that's what sometimes has to happen in those situations. But
Yeah, a lot of people leave people I find line in these lakes that don't have catfish in them. Just putting that out there, and it's like 50-pound monofilament, and I'm like, what are you fishing for? The only logical explanation I can use that for is snagging carp. That's the only logical explanation.
yeah,
But like
well,
it's like a crankbait tied on the end. I'm like, really? You're gonna snag fish with like a 2.5 crankbait? And I'm like,
how are you even casting that?
I know. It's just like
You gotta have like a
it's
shark
weird.
reel, a giant spinning reel to be able to
It's
hold
so
on
weird.
like that.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Some people don't have any clue what they're doing.
All right. Again, we're not talking to people in here, and I'm sorry, guys. Chicken fried steak is in the house. What's up, dude?
What's going on?
So, John, Brandon and I were
Oh
talking about
yeah.
this before the stream. Uh, I took a silly old bait from one of my kids' tackle boxes that Adam Odin was showing one of these the other night. I don't even know if you can buy these anywhere mainstream. Like,
Mm,
I bought
pretty
this
much just
I
Amazon.
bought this 8 years ago on Amazon. Got it's got the cloth in between the joints. It looks cool until you actually get it, and then you realize,
Mm.
no.
I need to try that.
And
I need
so,
to try that with my baits. Just cut up like a little
but
piece of a t-shirt.
it's got just big enough of a line tie and is placed where I think the clean tackle switchblade might. I wonder if with the natural swimming action of this bait, or so it's supposed to be, um, might pair decent with a chatterblade. So I don't know. I did that earlier today, just goofing around because I was cleaning up the house, put all my kids' baits back in their tackle boxes, which that Yozuri 3D pencil in the 5-inch in a chartreuse color is in one
Hmm.
of my kids' boxes. I was talking about how I had the 5-inch. Then I found another one that I bought like 6 months ago in black. It's still in its package, but um, yeah, the clean tackle
Just
switchblade is
finding
one that
baits.
yeah, I'm not totally sure about it. They will make anything chatter, but it depends on what your standard is for chatter, um,
Hmm.
right? How picky you are
Nothing.
about the action of the chatterbait. Um, I think you'd have to be like Brendan and really have like a station to be able to properly bend the blade to where it's just right,
Hmm.
And I have found that in very few of these have I been able to one make it run the way that I want to and have it be a consistent enough action. And two,
Hmm.
you need a big line tie. I put it on way too
Yeah.
many things. I just thought, oh, you can throw it on anything with a vertical line tie.
Hmm.
No, if you look at the best chatterbaits out there, they've got massive line
They
ties.
do.
That's a big deal.
Definitely.
You can't throw it on something with a thin little line tie and think that it's going to be awesome. You can't take this missile baits mini swim jig. That's not going to work.
Oh man, that would be cool. Like that
Not
small
going to
bait
work.
like that.
Even the newer, like here's the whatever
Oh
that is,
yeah, Willow Vibe.
Willow Vibe. Even this guy has got a pretty dang big line tie. Um, Same is true of all the best chatterbaits out there. If you look at them, most of them have like a funny line tie that's like
They do. It goes up.
really high up too.
Yeah.
Um, Especially the stealth blade.
Yeah, they're trying to keep that weight just below that blade, so that way it shatters right.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Super tall. But yeah, Queen Tackle Switchblade is a cool concept for sure. Didn't they just put out or who just put out a bladed jig with the blade separate? Said put your own blade on.
FMTC?
Was that?
FMTC? Is
We were
that it?
talking about that like a couple weeks ago, and I thought that was kind of genius. Like, why aren't more
I don't
companies
know.
doing that? Just sell them separate.
Yeah. And
Leave
then just have them like bend
leave
the
the
line
line
tie
tie open
close.
ever so slightly,
Yeah.
and just say, you just need to tighten this down after you add this blade right on, and it's going
Yeah.
to have the exact same action. If you need to use some UV to seal that eye, fine.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you just tighten that down with some pliers, and you should be fine.
Hmm.
Isn't that a way around
I would
the
say
patent?
so. I'm no lawyer, but I mean, or like law expert, but I'm pretty sure you could talk to somebody and maybe see if that's legal. I mean, or just
Yeah.
do it. I thought FMTC had had that, but I guess not.
Golly, guys. I don't think any of you guys are even talking to us at this point.
They're like, I've had enough of this big baits and chatterbait talk.
G Fon in the house. How you
What's
doing
up,
tonight,
man?
dude?
Have you taken out your new boat yet? Or found a motor for it? 'Cause it's a pretty sweet
Dustin
ride.
Taylor, what's up? Yeah, G Fon, you got a new boat?
Yeah, he got. I think it's his first boat. He sent me pictures, and he is very excited.
Right on. So
Yeah,
maybe,
I thought they sold it separate though. I thought they did. Maybe I did. I don't know.
yeah, you're not talking to us. Hero. Just kidding.
Well, Daniel's linking the trailers. You
Oh,
blowing up my secret bait,
yeah,
man.
take it easy, dude. Yeah, he already blew it up, We don't need to do that more than necessary because what if it's an awesome deal? And
No,
I don't know how mass produced rabbit baits are they?
I don't think they're massive. I know they're in my local tackle shop, which is a pretty small tackle shop.
Like, can you even get
Um,
that shad at Tackle Warehouse?
I
I
don't
think
know.
they've only got
I think he was linking it to Omnia, so I'm pretty
oh,
sure they're sold at Tackle Warehouse. Then
okay.
they're gonna be sold out after this.
Adam already ordered them. Get the hell out of here, dude. That's hilarious. You did not.
Did you order them with Tyler's affiliate link for Discount Tackle? If they
No,
sell them there.
no. Discount Tackle doesn't carry rabbit baits.
Oh man,
Not yet, at least.
should have told him before he came on the stream and
Yeah,
blown up the bait. I mean, that's come on.
whatever, dude.
I'm gonna
Um,
go searching through Discount Tackle to see if I have any mods for baits that are sold on there. Give me one sec.
well, I did like your idea about maybe creating your own joints by using a heated up knife.
Mm-hmm. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure a soldering iron should work too for that.
Mhm.
If you do like electronics and whatnot.
Do you do stuff like that on any other baits?
Um, trying to think. I mean, there's like if I hold up a bait and I'm like, yeah, talking about like this bait, then like mods will start popping into my head and I'm like, oh yeah, I did this to this bait. But like just trying to think of things off the top of your head, it's kind of hard sometimes. As far as burning stuff into baits, like I mean, I don't really do too much.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. So let's go down the rabbit hole that is talking about bait making because I think
Okay.
that is so fascinating. And I don't know if I used the word in the description or not, but I do feel like you're somewhat of a prodigy. And I say that because you're young and because you've got a tremendous amount of skill. Um, like no lie, very impressive what you are
Well,
capable
thank
of
you.
doing. Not just generally, but especially for your age. Like you've got time on your side, right? I think a
Yep.
lot of us wouldn't go down that route because of our age. Um,
Mhm.
and so we would not only encourage you to keep going if you sucked, but you don't. And it's really impressive.
I actually
So
have my first ever bait I made sitting over there if you want to see
yeah,
it.
yeah, show us.
I don't know if I
Because I'm
should.
curious to know like how that journey has gone. Like what got you into it, and what kind of baits did you start making, and how far has this all gone? Because you're carving baits, you're painting baits, and presumably you're making molds and pouring soft plastics as well. Um, where did the idea come from? And take us from that to like, where's the vision of what your bait making company will be in the future?
Oh man, that's a loaded question
That's
for
broad,
sure. I
right?
mean,
I'm
yeah.
asking you to tell us your whole journey, but it's
Well,
interesting.
I started back in like 2017 or 2018, somewhere around in there. I was
Okay.
pretty young then. I literally had like no money for spending on bait making stuff, so I just worked and like used like 2x4s out of my dad's
Yeah.
garage, just junk, wood and whatnot, and just started using tools that he had. And I was just like, this is the first one I ever made right there. That's a piece of junk. It actually
Nice.
swims a little bit. It kind of
It
swims.
it swims kind of.
I mean, you can pull the line
Oh,
ties out of it.
quality, quality.
Yeah, it's not even
Hook a
sealed. I
fish
don't even
and
know.
leave a fish
Yeah,
with the hook in its
exactly.
mouth.
Yeah, it's a piece of junk, but I always keep that by my desk over there just to remember where I came from. It's
Yeah,
always yeah, but that's
absolutely.
where I started. I didn't
You
start getting
started with
good.
wood and with crankbaits,
Yep. Yeah. I don't even
and
know
then
what you'd
did,
call
did
this, a
you
jerk bait,
stay on that
crankbait.
route for a long time?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at what point did you expand into other things?
So I think it was in 2019 I started messing with soft plastics. It was I got a pot, like a cooking pot,
Hmm.
and I'd light a fire and I'd set up these bricks in a grate and I put the cooking pot on top and I put in like old plastics and I bought some molds offline and I would just pour them out of the cooking pot instead of a microwave.
Dang,
That's how the
did
soft
that
baits got
work?
started. It worked. It
Wow.
was very annoying though to get like the fire had to stay hot for a long time.
Yeah.
So it was very annoying to do that. But
Well,
yeah,
and
then
not
I
being
mean,
Pyrex, was that not super messy,
it
dude?
was a pain to do that, and you couldn't like do
Smelly.
colors, and it would burn all the time. It would
Yeah.
stick to the pan. It was a big, big pain for sure. But then I didn't like even start getting good at like building baits until like 2020 or 2021. Like I was just horrible. I mean, even now I'm still learning things like every day, and
Yeah.
I'm still like I think that I'm just not even getting like I'm just still getting started. I'm just always messing with stuff.
Yeah, but it's obvious that you have a talent when it comes to uh well, first what you were talking about with just how observant you are and curious, right? I think that is going to take you big places in the future, is that you're able to take a bait that is popular for one reason or another
Hmm.
and figure out why.
Hmm.
Um, Most of us would never start taking apart or drilling into a high dollar bait to kind of figure out how
Hmm.
you might be able to replicate something similar, right? And
Hmm.
I totally respect the fact that you're not going to be that guy who's knocking anybody off.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I don't
Maybe
try
for
to.
your own personal use or what have you, right? That's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
totally different thing. But if
But
you're
like this bait,
selling
like, I
baits,
mean, I'm not
you're
gonna
making
sell
things for other.
my.
Well, right. I
Yeah,
don't blame you
that's
for doing
personal
that.
use.
Same with the 7-inch spark shad. Like, if it's a
Yeah,
bait
yeah.
that either is too expensive or that it is no longer made and
Hmm.
you want to have it,
Yep.
then by all means, like, all the power to you, because most of us don't even have the capability of doing that.
Hmm.
But I think your curiosity is going to be a good thing for you. But um, why 2020 or 2021? How did you get better?
That's when I started actually getting a little bit of money to mess around with stuff. That's
Yeah.
like, I mean, that's like a big thing with bait making is you gotta have at least a little bit of money coming in to,
So
buy some,
materials, tools,
yeah,
what?
materials. I had a good bit of tools like already, like that my dad let me use and mess around with, and it's just, just messing around with a few tools. Then I moved into like I got my own like corner of the shop for bait making, built like a little table, and then upgraded to a second table, and now I'm in my own shop with multiple tables, and it's just like it keeps on getting bigger, bigger, you know.
Yep.
And once you start getting a little bit of money going in, like you can start bait making, like soft bait making, like $150. Like
Right.
that'll get you a mold or two. That'll get you. You can get like a microwave, like pretty cheap for like $25 at a yard sale or whatever. So yeah, I mean you can get into it pretty cheap, and yeah,
I'm
that's
not
that's when I
saying I
start getting a
want
little bit of
to.
money.
I'm just curious to know your mindset and where do you see this going? What if you could fast forward 10 years
Hmm.
and the business is where you want it to be,
Hmm.
and you're either a high-end garage maker or you're a mainstream brand,
Hmm.
where do you want it to go, and what kind of products are you going to be selling?
Well, I really just want to make baits. I love making baits, and I love watching people catch fish on my baits. Like
Yeah.
that's like huge to me. Like I love it. I love making baits almost as much as I love fishing, to be honest. Like
Interesting.
they're pretty equal, which is kind of weird, I guess, to say.
It is weird.
I
I
mean,
mean, but
like,
that just goes to show that you're probably cut out for it, right? Because it's a grind of a career, right?
yeah, it is.
If you expect to make a living in the space making
Mhm.
baits, you're going to spend more time
Yeah,
making baits than you are using baits.
definitely. And people always say if you want to fish a lot, don't go into the fishing industry. And that's probably true. I mean, I don't see a lot of
Maybe.
people that own them companies fish a lot. Like Rick from Monster Bass, he gets to fish like 4 or 5 times a year,
Yeah.
and he owns Monster Bass. He's like, it's just like that. You spend so much time creating this company and building your brand and building your products and everything, and it takes away from your personal time to go fishing. I hope to see my brand still garage maker. I would love to,
Nice.
like in 10 years, to have like 2 or 3 employees making baits. I would love to do bait making full time, but the probability of that is very low because I would have to create a lot of hype over my baits, kind of like
Right.
Piz, or I'd have to absolutely make my baits out of this world, completely different than everybody else's. And I've
Right.
got a few baits that I'm working on right now that I haven't shown anybody. I think the only person that knows is Matt and Tim Maynard, that know two of them. And there's a few others that I haven't shown anybody that have never been made before that are
Yeah.
just proof of concept. I don't even know if some of them work.
Sure.
And, I think those could definitely bump me up and get me some notoriety. But you really do have to be on social media. You really have to know a lot of the people in the industry in
Totally.
order to be successful at the business.
Right.
A lot of it's just the community. And
Exactly. Which for you,
you, you,
is it
yeah.
more swim bait underground, or where, you know, could you put a brand out there right now that you have a lot of respect for, that maybe you would like to say, uh, not follow in their footsteps, but have a reputation like them in
Mhm.
10 years from now?
Yeah, definitely. Working Class Zero, Mike Gilbert. Just like I've talked to him like a few times on Instagram, like very, very minimal contact. But
Yep.
he seems like a really nice guy. Like, and he knows a lot about fishing. His brand is also cool because his style about his brand, but also the products he makes. He actually thinks about them. He actually
Yeah.
puts different his own spin. He actually thinks about how the people are going to use the products instead of just throwing a product out there and being like, all right, this is how you fish it. There you go. I'm selling it. I'm going to make like $200 off of this bait.
Right.
Every sale. He's actually putting thought into the products, and he's also very USA based, which is awesome.
Sure.
He wants to keep everything USA based as far as his products go. So I really think something like that, similar, would be awesome, but maybe a little bit more community oriented as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, when you say community oriented, what do you mean? Because when you were saying maybe have a few guys working for you, helping to make debates,
Hmm.
I don't know why. I have very limited knowledge of all these garage makers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was shortly after the announcement of the collaboration between Spro and KGB that
Uh-huh.
you know Kevin was doing some videos explaining the bait and reassuring his customers
Mm-hmm.
that this collab is legitimate and that he wouldn't have done it if it weren't something that he could fully stand by.
Yeah.
Um, would you want to go that far so as to be kind of a hybrid where
Mm-hmm.
you're known as a garage maker, maybe that's a little juiced up with a few extra employees,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then maybe be able to parlay that into something that works for the brand and for money purposes,
Mm-hmm.
bigger picture?
Yeah.
Could you see yourself
Yeah.
doing that?
I would like to do that. The only problem is that these companies, most of them, just want to make a product that is, competitive in the market and that makes money. That's what most of the, I mean, I'm not saying every other brand out there wants that, but that's a lot of the brands. I mean, they're there to make money, to, earn a profit. That's what most of them are there for. They started for.
Yep.
Now there's exceptions, of course. There's a lot of exceptions, but I would have to have the product absolutely perfect. Like, I don't want to put out a bait that I don't want to fish personally and that I don't want other people fishing. So I want a bait that's absolutely perfect. And that's the problem with some of those companies, is they want to put out a bait as fast as they can.
Right.
And I think they, like the Spro collab, like, I would totally trust Kevin, like, with making a bait like that. Like, that's, he thinks like that. Like, he created a great bait. I've seen the action videos. I'm yet to get one in my hands. I want one though. Um, but he does a great job with that sort of stuff. Like, he's working on something. He didn't do it, like, didn't release it until it was perfect. Like, he did a last minute change to, like, the eye, like, to how it was positioned on the bait and the colors and the size of it or something like that. Like, he's nitpicky about that stuff. And that's
Mhm.
great. That's what I just don't want to release a bad product, is what I'm really trying to say.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I only ask because, like, I think it's really interesting that he was one of those big hype brands, right? Um,
Yeah, pretty much.
right? Like the Chad, sure, he makes a number of other baits, but the Chad Shad is like the bread and butter, and
Yeah. Chad Shad and KGB
can be
Legend.
difficult to get your hands on, is relatively expensive, like all these
Mm-hmm.
things. That then it seems just like kind of a brilliant business move, and apparently it
It
was more
is.
Spro's idea than his. But what timing that is when you can take that reputation that you have and then partner and go halfway mainstream, but
Mm-hmm.
still maintain everything else that you're doing. Just have that be a side project
Yeah,
that pulls in
definitely.
a separate source of income, but also makes your baits maybe more accessible and more affordable to the
Mm-hmm.
masses, which then drives awareness and maybe will make other people buy his standard products, right?
Definitely. I think that was his intentions behind it. I'm not sure for sure, but that's. I think that's what he was thinking. When it was like kind of like marketing almost. He's
Yeah.
he's using that awesome bait to market his brand to get people into swim bait fishing. Because once you go down like the rabbit hole and do like stuff that I've done or Matt's done, you go deep into it. You get started in the cheap stuff and then you just go all out crazy, and
Yep.
he's gonna get a Chad Chat or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. So, what baits will you be selling?
Um, Everything and anything that I can make that's
Really?
big bait oriented. Actually, all right, I'm not sure if Frank is still in here. I finished up a micro lipless crankbait for him and a small balsa flat side.
Yeah. Who
So
said that you need to make micro swim baits?
I'm not sure.
Someone just said
Um,
that a few
it
minutes
was
ago.
like,
Adam, of course.
okay, yeah,
Of course.
of course, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I might have something in the works, Adam.
Well,
Just have to
Adam, why
wait
don't
and
you just
see.
buy a Gamecraft jointed claw 70 or something?
Yeah, there you go. Or Depth's 115 slide swimmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So honestly, you think you'll be making swim baits, crankbaits, soft plastics, all of it?
the thing is with if you want to make a living off of it, you kind of have to go the big bait route.
Yeah.
If not, you're going to be really wasting your time. I mean, not necessarily wasting your time, but it's going to be really hard. You have to move a lot of, if you sell a crankbait for, $30, a balsa crankbait for $30, you'd have to sell a lot more of those than you'd have to sell one swim bait for $200,
Yep.
if you get what I'm saying.
How much
So
more work is it to make a big
it's
swim bait than it is a super high quality crankbait?
they're both really hard. A small bait is extremely hard to get right. So if you take like a super small crankbait, and you try to make that really, really good, it's going to take a lot of effort. And if you try to make a big, say 8.0 sized crankbait, that's going to be exponentially easier to make than a
Really?
small crankbait. You've got less material. The bigger the change on that smaller bit of material, it's just going to make it harder. It's going to throw off balance. You got to take
Sure.
your time with it. With a big bait, it's a little easier to make. So
Good
yeah,
point.
it's it's a lot more finicky with small baits. That's why I've only gotten into balsa crankbaits just this past like couple of months, because I watched Marty stream with
Yeah.
TK, and I also do like lure repaints. So people send me their big baits,
Yeah.
and I fix them. Like I've done a few tuning jobs. Like I think I sent a photo to the group chat of me like tuning a phony shad. So
Mhm.
like people like just they're like, hey, I can't figure out how to make this bait work on Swimbait Universe, and I'm just like, hey, send it to me, cover shipping, I'll tune it and send it back to you, and
All right.
that gets my
Pause.
brand out
This is
there
the
too.
second time that you said that on this stream. And
Yes.
as someone who's aspiring to make a business out of lure making
Hmm.
or painting or modifying,
Hmm.
you should charge a little bit for that. Not
That
a
is
lot.
true. That is true. It
Call
took
it 10
five
bucks,
minutes.
dude. $10 is not a lot, right?
That is
But
true.
just for the sake of it being a service, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I would encourage you to charge for something like that. It's generous of you to offer that up, but
Hmm.
as a piece of advice, I would not offer that for very long. Um,
Yes. I'm
and same
not.
with repaints. I did not give you the proper credit that you deserve, but your painting skills are really good. Where, how did you
Thank
pick
you.
that up? Are you just artsy fartsy and have an
No,
ability
I'm
like
not artsy. I can't even draw a stick figure. I cannot.
what? So you didn't
It
have
is
like a knack for
no, I cannot do any
painting
of that.
with
No,
paint,
nothing.
let
I have
alone airbrushing? Like, how did
I have
you?
nothing of that sort. Ever. I There's no way I could do something like that. Like with
So, how long of a
paintbrushes.
process has that been for you to get to where you are now?
It's ever since I started. I mean, I didn't have an airbrush the first 2 or 3 years until like 2020, I think. That's when I got the airbrush because that's when Marty started coming in. And I was like, all right, got an airbrush, start figuring stuff out. Um, yeah, that's when it started, and then I just kept on going from there. And then recently, the past I think 6 months, I've been talking to TK, and oh man, he's made me spend some money, like a lot. he's,
What on certain
I mean,
types of paint
he's
or
made
what?
me completely change my entire painting setup. So I've been using water-based paint, and water-based paint's great. It's a lot safer, but now I've gotten into automotive paint. So you're
Hmm.
spending $20 for a 4 ounce bottle of paint. You have a lot of bottles of paint. So I actually sold Adam Mira all of my water-based paints for like a really good deal. So I went full solvent and lacquer-based paint. I had to
Hmm.
get a whole new venting setup. I had to get a
Right.
whole new paint booth set up, mask, everything. I had to vent it out of the shop, and then I'd use 2K clear coat. So he's helped me a lot. I want to thank TK.
Nice.
He's like, I guess, mentoring me, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I can kind
he's
of
been amazing
I get
help.
that vibe a little bit when I'm not able to like actually stop by many of TK streams since they're midday.
Hmm.
Um, but I noticed that you're in there and that I can tell that there's a dynamic between the two of you guys.
Hmm.
So that is one other thing aside from your curiosity and a seemingly natural talent that you've got. Um, you also seem to be putting yourself out there a lot, which is
Hmm.
a big deal, right? You're you're getting plugged in to where a lot of people know who you are before your business is really up and running. That's crucial. So
I love talking to people about fishing and bait making, so it's just kind of like, I
yeah,
love doing it, so, why not do it? And I mean, I like talking to nice people that are, good people. That's what I just like.
yeah. Well, yeah. Sorry to keep kissing your ass so much on this stream,
Well,
but
thank you, man.
yeah,
I mean,
I'm still blown away that you just turned 18 a few months ago. I'm almost twice your age, and I feel like I know less than you do in a lot of regards. So
hey, man, if you're ever in the area, I'll show you how to do it, and we'll do a crankbait start to finish. It'll only take like an hour or two.
pretty cool, pretty cool. So it is relatively late. We've been on an hour and 45 minutes. Does anybody
Yeah,
have
man.
any
Holy
questions
cow.
for Brendan about bait making or about big baits before we dip out of here pretty soon? I can't believe I haven't gone pee yet, but I'm going to hold out for another 5 to 10 minutes before we dip out of here. Silicone is the future, says John.
Yes, silicone is good. I do like silicone for
That's
baits.
right. Brendan is serious. Serious
Yeah,
about
I'm
big baits and serious about making baits.
I'm just gonna put this out there right now. There may be a collaboration between me and G-Rat. I may be helping them design a bait and also do a paint collaboration.
Really
So it's not set in stone yet. So might be
interesting.
coming. Might be coming.
Yeah. So what do you think about G-Rat just going in all these different directions the last year with all these new baits?
Mm-hmm.
Weren't they pretty much a
They
swim
were
bait
smaller.
brand? Like,
Yeah.
isn't the dude's name Garrett?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
he
One of
just
them.
made a couple swim baits, and then like all of a sudden this past year, I'm seeing that wild swim jig head with
That's
a
a
lip
pretty cool
on it,
bait.
and like a number of different things, and I'm like, I don't know whether to be confused or think that it's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
but that's part of why I asked you, like, what is your plan? Because I don't necessarily think that it's a wise business move to just all of a sudden explode onto the market with
Mm-hmm.
everything, because then people will be confused about what you do best
Mm-hmm.
or why they should trust you. Um, I was dogging on 13 fishing, and now I would say the same about Lose this year with all their mock series of baits.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of companies have done that in the last handful of years of just like showing up with a full line of baits.
Yeah.
And I think the mass market or the average consumer wants to know where to start, wants to know why they should trust you, what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, not that my word ought to mean much to you, but I would recommend dipping your toes in and building a reputation in one thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then expanding out from that. Maybe even what Garrett has done, because I think that was a slow process, and
Mm-hmm.
then boom, exploded with a handful of new products. Um, once GRAT kind of had a reputation, right?
Mm-hmm. Actually, Garrett runs the I guess you could say day-to-day stuff, but Hank is actually the one that designs the baits.
Interesting.
So there's two guys, I guess, partners you could say, in the
Got it.
company. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
wouldn't
I mean
know
they're
because I think Garrett's the only one that really like shows his face or is
yeah.
talking about the products, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But wow, yeah, that's interesting. Let's see
Yeah.
if anybody is asking any questions. No, apparently.
Matt, when are you going to start carving your balsa? Because I knew you were on Marty's stream, and I know you said you wanted to get into balsa. Come on, man.
Yeah, so RIP to your 50 baits. Is
Yeah.
there any way to salvage those?
No, I'm just gonna fish them myself. That's I'll just throw them willy nilly or give them out to people I see at the lake.
So
It's
you
just like,
said you had a specific action that you were
mm-hmm.
looking for.
Yep.
What was that action? Why didn't
Mm-hmm.
this bait have that? What action does it have?
Yeah. these baits have a little bit wider action and they dive a little bit shallower than I was hoping. So all that's due to the lip and the line tie,
Yep.
and the shape of the bait is, just how I want it, and the ballast is placed how I want it and everything. And I'm just learning all that stuff as I go along because I haven't really built a ton of balsa baits. It's just new to me.
Right.
And I figured out, all right, I need the line tie here, and I need the lip in this shape and in this placement. So I just need to change all the lips and change all the where the line ties are. So I'm just going to go ahead and start over and just fish the ones that I have. It's 50 something flat sides, so I'm just
Yeah,
going to
that's
lose them
just brutal.
willy-nilly.
But so for a tighter action,
Mhm.
where ought that line tie go compared to where you had it?
So for mine, the line tie is not in the lip. If you put the line tie in the lip, it's going to change some different things, and I haven't messed around with that yet.
Yeah.
The only thing I have messed around with is the line tie on the actual bait itself, embedded into the bait. So the higher you put the line tie, the less wobble your bait is generally going to have, most of the time. If you
Yeah.
put the line tie lower, it's going to put it lower towards the ballast of the bait, towards the center line of the bait. It's going to have a more wide wobble most of the time. But then again, the lip shape, the lip angle, the lip placement, the actual shape of the body, if it has a taper, if it doesn't have a taper, how much of a taper, how much material is on the bottom, is it upside down tear shaped, you go into
No, there's a
everything.
million things that go into it. You're absolutely right.
And then there's the actual wood itself. The wood is going to have inconsistencies in it.
Yep.
The balsa might be harder on this side or this side. It's just a lot of things that go into it that you just have to learn. It's just a learning process, and I'll
Do you have
probably
a
be working on these
preferred-
balsas a long time.
Do you have a preferred material?
For the wood,
Yep.
so for the balsa crankbaits, obviously balsa. I haven't messed with really much else as far as the those type of crankbaits go. Balsa, it just floats super hard. And that's what you want, really.
And how often are you finding inconsistencies?
Every
Um,
bait. That's just
everyone.
wood in general.
Yeah.
Especially being that light of a wood, it's just gonna have inconsistencies, and that's just how it's gonna be. Each bait is gonna be extremely slightly different, and that's the cool thing about a garage made bait.
Yeah.
Is each one is very slightly different.
Yep.
It's not gonna play into some situations, like crazy. Like you might buy 5, and each one's gonna run a little bit different.
Right.
So, and sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing, depending on how you like to fish them, and then you can always tune them to make them how you want them.
Right. So with that bait that you're making, assuming you're using the same body style,
Mhm.
to get it to run deeper, are you making a longer bill or are you making that bill
I'm
less
changing
steep?
the angle. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I'm changing the
So
angle.
the angle was a little too steep and it's
Mhm.
running shallow. You're going to use the same lip and just make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, because you can get a short lip to go deep.
Yeah,
Most of the time.
totally.
It's just, all about the angle and how the taper is on the bait as well.
Well,
Yeah.
when you get it where you want it, count me in
Mhm.
for buying one of your baits.
No, dude, I'll just send you
And
one. You're
no,
sending me all these baits.
no,
Of
I'll say it
course.
again.
Well, guess what? I'm going to have your
Don't
address
you
when you
offer
send these
everybody on
baits.
Instagram one of these baits for free? Don't you be? Hey, you got to start somewhere. You can, if you want, you because this isn't mainstream and you're not listing them anywhere just yet. You can hook us up with a deal. All right, we could
Yes.
pay you $12 or $15 a bait.
All right. All right.
Okay, where
Sounds good,
maybe
man.
in the future you'll charge $30
Hmm.
for one of those crankbaits. That's totally fine.
Hmm.
But don't do it for free. Okay.
Well, hey, man, guess what? I'm going to have your address. So guess what? I'd be able to send you anything you want.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, if you want to play
There you
that
go.
game, yeah, we could do that. All right. So, yeah, I'm a glide fluke and the 7-inch spark shad coming your way.
Sweet. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah. Thank
I
you for
appreciate
jumping
it.
on. And guys, to
Yeah,
anyone
man.
and everyone in here who hasn't already hit the thumbs up or especially gone over and subscribed to Brennan's channel,
Yes,
please
thank you
do that.
guys.
As well as Adam Odin and Matt, the South Jersey Fisherman, everybody else in here who has and is trying to grow their own YouTube channel, Jermaine Mainstream Fishing. Do everybody a solid and hit that subscribe button. Otherwise,
Yes,
thank
thank you
you
guys.
for hanging out tonight. Brendan, thanks for jumping on with me.
Hey man, no problem. I enjoyed it.
I know it's kind
love
of
talking
late on the
fishing.
East Coast for everybody. So Sunday night, late night stream, and we still got 22 people in here. Thank you guys
Yeah,
very
it's
much.
actually not Sunday anymore. It's Monday.
You're right. Here is Brendan's channel. It's also
Yes.
in the description of this video. So, guys, have a great rest of your night. Enjoy the beginning of your week, and
Yes.
we'll see you soon.
Thank you guys.
Peace.